The state of our state is strong, and it's getting stronger.
Today on The Real Story, Governor Lamont says we are just getting started and we have a long way to go. The governor delivering his State of the State address at the Capitol, talking jobs, transportation, marijuana, sports betting, and more. Communications Director Max Reiss is here with the details.
A new way of thinking when it comes to creating jobs. There was a time when the state offered lucrative incentives up front for companies already here to hire more workers or for outside companies to move here. Now the jobs will have to come before the money. Economic Development Commissioner David Lehman is here to explain.
And then our reporters of the Roundtable, veteran state capitol journalists, give us their take on the governor's proposals and the mood of lawmakers. Chris Keating is here from the Hartford Courant, and so is state budget guru Keith Fanoff. All today on The Real Story. Hi there, you're watching The Real Story. I'm Al Terzi alongside Jenn Bernstein.
Thank you, Al, and good morning to everyone at home. Well, the legislative session has officially started. Per tradition, Governor Lamont stood in front of a joint session of the legislature last Wednesday and laid out his priorities for this year: job growth, lowering health care costs, legalizing recreational marijuana, and expanding sports betting. And then he briefly mentioned tolls, calling it the elephant in the room.
Some elephant, huh? Up first now this morning, we're happy to have the governor's communications director here, former political reporter Max Reiss. Max,
welcome.
Good morning, Al. Good morning, Jen.
We got to ask you this first.
Yes.
How has this transition been for you to be on the other side of it?
So my wife asked me a couple weeks ago, she goes, so how much longer is this? Like your phone's ringing all the time with agency issues, right? Sometimes political stuff. The job never stops, but the thing about these opportunities is that how often do you have an opportunity to take a position like this, serve the state? My wife and I, we want to raise our kids in Connecticut. We love Connecticut, and we viewed this as an incredible opportunity to stay in Connecticut, but also to help Connecticut. And so it's been a transition, but I'm really enjoying it.
What did the governor think of his reception at the Capitol the other day?
The governor was in a great mood yesterday, all day today, because of how incredibly well received his positive message was. He sat down and wrote a speech. I think the first draft was about 2 weeks ago. And when we went through the first time, we're like, this is an incredibly positive message. And then he tasked the staff with, all right, you guys know what I'm saying here. Now you guys fill in some more of the blanks about how the ratings agencies are looking at us. The Wall Street Journal is talking about us, Bloomberg, but also some of the great economic news over the year. That's a story we wanted to tell. And I will say, I think it was incredibly well received from what I've heard from members of the General Assembly. And we hope that that continues over the rest of the legislative session.
So he wrote his own first draft. Does that always happen that way?
First and second, absolutely. But also, this is why he assembles a team, though, too, to help with some of the policy detail. How do we frame marijuana? How do we frame sports betting? But also, you mentioned transportation, right? How do you frame that issue given where we are? And look, the governor did an incredible job with it, and we were just proud to be a part of the team that has a positive message moving forward.
He went off the cuff with the elephant in the room, though, because we get the printed speech before,
right.
And I was trying to find the soundbite later on, and I was like, this is not in his printed speech. So
yeah, but also that's the incredible thing about Governor Lamont. When we hold meetings, we hold briefings, it's a very much a free discussion. Like, he's not a classic politician, and that's one of the best things about him and his brand. He listens. He's very much a different thinker. And when he did teleprompter practice, and not that you do this very often, right? He had a couple of ad-lib lines, and he goes, I'm going to do that. And we said, do it. It's all you, man. Do it.
Hey, let's talk about that elephant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a vote? When will there be a vote? And how do you think it's going to go?
Look, we've had great discussions with the General Assembly, both the House and Senate leadership. They said this is something they want to do. Look, we are a co-equal branch of government, the executive branch, the legislative branch. We've definitely provided a framework. We know they support it. They say it's going to get done, so we think it's going to get done.
But the anti-toll people have put up a pretty strong campaign, and even if some of the lawmakers think they still want to do it, how are they going to get around that?
This is a recession-proof jobs program. is what this is. This is a solution to the state's transportation woes. And the alternative to this is something we're just not going to consider. What this does is a few things at once, right? It protects our social safety net. It protects all those vital services. We protect our rainy day fund, right? This rainy day fund that's been built by Republicans and Democrats with leadership from the executive branch, Governor Ned Lamont, and his fiscal stewardship. We keep that intact. And, oh, by the way, we're going to grow through the next recession. Every economist you talk to says it's coming. The question is when, and Connecticut's going to be ready because we didn't touch the rainy day fund, which is something that we're not going to budge on.
To get that implemented, you need the votes, and this vote keeps getting pushed off, and people are saying, well, it's because we're trying to work out the details, but Republicans are saying you simply don't have the votes.
What you can't push off is fixing this. You can't push it off. There are folks out there that are sick and tired of sitting in traffic. Their trains are slower today than they were in 1975. We need to change that. And if you're a Republican and you're not going to support that, I say good luck in the fall going to the door and saying, yeah, I voted against this thing. Look, we know it's got to get done, and we think we have partners in the General Assembly that are going to make that happen.
But do you have the votes at this point? Are you confident?
Look, I think that's a question for the General Assembly. Everybody knows where we stand. I think that's a question for members of the General Assembly. But like I said, we think we're going to get this over the goal line.
Sports betting. This has been wanted for a long time. You got the tribes figuring that they have exclusive jurisdiction over that. So is there something going to be worked out? They probably want exclusive. They're going to stick with that. And how are you going to deal with that? The tribes have been incredible partners of the state of Connecticut going back decades, and that's a partnership we want to continue. There's obviously been disagreement over the past year between the administration and the tribes regarding what the path forward looks like. If there's a time to come forward with something collaborative where we can really make this work, we think this is the year. We know we're going into a full budget year next year, so why don't we do it now, come up with the right solution? Who makes the first move? It's a good question. We got to get everybody at the table first. The session just started. We know that Senator Austin has her bill. We're reviewing it, seeing where we have agreement, where we want to work on it. We want to get people to the table, and but also, you saw we didn't put that in our budget, right? We didn't put the revenue for that in our budget because we got to figure out who our dance partners are on this to get this done. And he still wants marijuana. We do, and that's a discussion that we're having in a very different way on other issues, right? We've spoken with Governor Cuomo about it. We spoke with Governor Raimondo, Governor Baker, Governor Murphy. You want to have a regional approach to this. Look, if Massachusetts is already there, right? Governor Raimondo put it in her budget. She put millions in her budget to get for marijuana. Governor Cuomo also did the same thing. If they're going to legalize it, we have to get the framework ready here in Connecticut. If you're going to purchase it in Massachusetts or purchase it in New York or purchase it in Rhode Island, and you're going to come across the border and you're going to get arrested for it, I'm not sure that's something that necessarily works, right? If you're going to be coming down 95 or going up 95. So we have to come up with what the regulatory framework looks like. But if there's a time to do it collaboratively, once again with lawmakers at the table right there with us, we want that to happen this year. What would you say, aside from tolls, is the second issue that he is going to be really hounding lawmakers on? Economic growth. We need to make sure that we are pushing policies that keep our economy moving, that keep our budget stable. When was the last, you're going to have Chris Keating and Keith Phaneuf on a little bit later, right? These guys know this building better than ever. When was the last time you came into a legislative session where the thing that people weren't talking about was a multi-billion-dollar deficit or a $500 or $800 million deficit? There is a more solid fiscal foundation for this state right now than perhaps we've seen in a generation. And we want to push policies, support policies that are going to keep that going. And repealing the religious exemption? Look, I will say this, for me, big demonstration. As a father, I'm a father of two young children, all right? My kids are going to be school-aged very, very soon. To me, that's an important issue, making sure that all the children that they go to school with have their proper vaccinations. Governor Lamont wants to do this in a collaborative way that is not disruptive, but we need to do it in a way that protects all children, which is something exactly you talked about during the State of the State. We only have a second, but I need to get this in because Senator Fasano said this last week. The claim that Governor Lamont is using bonding money to buy votes. Senator Fasano never complains when it's in his district, especially when it's paying for a football field. It's political opportunism. He's wrong. He has nothing to back it up. And I look forward to seeing him at the next ribbon cutting for bond money that Governor Lamont signed off on in his own district. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Can we be there? Come on over. You'll see a press release. Thanks, Max Reiss. Thank you very much for coming on. Appreciate it. All right, still to come today on The Real Story, two veteran political reporters from the print media will offer their perspectives on opening day of the 2020 session, including the governor's budget perspective. The Hartford Courant's Chris Keating and the CT Mirror's Keith Phaneuf. But next, right after a quick break, a big change on the way in Connecticut and how the state has been trying to grow jobs with financial incentives. This is an idea that even has Republicans smiling. Yeah, you ought to believe that. Economic and Community Development Commissioner David Lamont is here with us. And coming up right after The Real Story, it's Real People with Stan Simpson. On his show today, Connecticut holistic health educator Kevin Reiss. He talks about his journey in dealing with stress and finding inner peace through meditation. So stick around for that. The Real Story, though, will continue right after.